Hey y'all, what's happening? Come on in the room. Happy National Adoption Awareness Day. I am so excited that I get to talk to one of my dearest best friends and bring her to you. This is Warrior Wednesday, the Saturday edition, Adoption National Adoption Day. It's Saturday. What's happening, you guys? Hi from Chicago. I'm in Chi-Town. It's cold. It's cold. Come on in the room. Tell me where you're at, where you're from, what's going on. Happy National Adoption Day. I have the best guest ever. Nicole says she is adopted. I love it, Nicole Marie. Happy National Adoption Day, girl. Tell me, you guys, where you are joining in from. We have the most amazing person to speak to on this extremely important topic. What's up from Houston? How you guys doing? Florida is in the building. Thank you for joining in. All of those things, y'all. Come on in. Another Florida person is here. I love it. What's going on? You guys, I'm going to bring on my guest. I don't want to take too much time away from her. Okay. In 2004, I believe it was, my guest moved from New York to Los Angeles. She was an actor that then became a writer, writing on a show called The Finder, and then she went over to Bones and The Resident. You guys know all the shows, and then she signed a deal with the WB Child, and she's all the way live with a big deal with the WB. You guys also might know a little tiny show called All American on the CW and Netflix. It's streaming now. It's on now. I think I'm on Monday night. And she is the showrunner of that show and the creator of Homecoming, which is a spinoff to All American. And she is my friend, and she is a mother and of two boys and one that she adopted. And I cannot wait to bring her here to talk to you about National Adoption Day. She's going to tell us her story, give us all the information that we know, that she knows, answer questions, and all of the good things. So somebody says the green looks good on me. Thank you, because like I said, it's cold in Chicago, but I'm in here. You guys are going to meet the fabulous, the wonderful writer, producer, actor, multi-show having, deal having, NKECHI Carroll. So you know how we do it here. We put flowers all up in the comment section while I bring my girl on, my friend, like one of my best friends ever. Coming on Warrior Wednesdays on a Saturday. I can't wait to see her. I can't wait for you guys to see her. There she is.
You don't understand how
Finally.
technologically proud of myself I am for getting on a live. This, it does not happen often. I was convinced I was going to mess it up, so I'm very excited.
But you did it. Hi,
I did
friend.
it. Hi, friend.
Cheers. Are we ready?
Yes. I love that we both did red too without coordinating, but yes, girl.
I know.
I've got the wine.
We got the wine. There's flowers coming in on the comment section for you, because that's what we do here on our Warrior Wednesdays, even though it's a Saturday.
It. Thank you.
So there's flowers coming in. So cheers to National Adoption Day, my friend.
Cheers, cheers, cheers.
Cheers. Mama Stu is in the building.
Hi, Mama Stu.
I know Mama Stu is in the building. And first and foremost, hi, I love you. And the first thing I want to do before we get into the adoption story, now you can tell it or I can tell it, but who wants to talk about how we actually met? This is my very good friend, but also my boss, y'all. But who wants to tell the story about how we met?
I will listen. Every time she calls me her boss, it just feels weird, because this is like my best friend and my travel partner. So we met. Y'all, I don't like turbulence. I don't do well in turbulence, or frankly, I don't do well when the plane's flying fine either. It was a lot of years ago. It's
20 plus, but we're not 20 plus,
but we're not counting. Nope, we were 5 when we met.
Right.
But I was on a plane to Acapulco. LL Cool J was in first class. I just want to point that out.
I didn't know that part of the story.
Yes. So LL was there. He was in first class, also headed to Acapulco, because we were going to the Acapulco Black Film Festival.
Yes.
And there was suddenly a tremendous amount of turbulence on the plane. And I kept telling myself, we're not going to die because this isn't how LL story ends. That's what I kept telling myself. I'm like, he's on this plane. This is not how it's going to end for any of us. But the turbulence got really bad. And so I reached over and grabbed the hand of the young lady next to me who I'd never met before in my life.
Ever.
And I said, I grabbed her hand and I said, I'm so sorry. I know you don't know me, but I can't die alone. That person was Kellee Stewart. That is how we met. Bless her heart. She did not think I was crazy. She held my hand and she was like, child, we got you. Because it wasn't just her. It was like her brother, her parents were on the plane. Aisha Hines was with us.
Aisha Hines. I think Aisha jumped in the room for a second. I don't know if she's still here, but Aisha.
Hi, baby. Hi, Aisha. Yeah, there were a lot of us on that plane, all before we sort of launched into our dream careers, right? We were all super young. We were all still pursuing the dreams of acting, writing, directing, producing, like all of it. And yeah, that was that fantastic flight to Acapulco that changed our lives. And so yeah, literally that was all it took. A year and a half later, Kellee was at my wedding. We moved to LA within 6 months of each other. We've just been, it's one of those meetings that was meant to happen. And so, yeah, ever since then, our families, and I mean our whole families, parents, everything, have been bonded since that fateful flight to Acapulco, which clearly we all survived.
We clearly survived it. And the moral of the story is you never know who you're sitting next to in turbulent times, but the reality is, like, you have now reached your cruising altitude. You know, I say this to you all the time, like, girl, that turbulence had nothing on you, okay? Because Miss Thing is a mom of two. She is running 2 television shows, y'all. She is a writer. She's a producer. She is signing big deals with big studios, and she is here to talk to you guys about National Adoption Day. And before we get into it, I'm going to see there's somebody who wants to say hello to you. I don't know if that person is here or not. Let me see if I can find them, because if they are, if not right away, let's see. If I can find that person, they're going to come on and say hello. Hold on a quick second, NK. This person is always late, which means that you would be able to guess. My brother is on here that says true story. Let me see. Somebody. Okay, there's some people trying to jump on, but when that person tries to jump on, I'm going to make sure that they come on and say hello to you. But let's get into it. That's right. Maiwa Bundu, you never know who you're sitting next to in turbulent times, baby. And now look at us now.
That's my cousin. Hi.
Oh, that's your cousin? Hi, cousin. Hi. All right, let's get into National Adoption Day, which is why we are really here. Can you please just tell us, well, first of all, one of the things I always like to start off with, oh, there he is. Hi, Munchkin.
You say hi to Auntie Kellee.
Hi,
so I just realized I have my earpiece in. He can't even hear you. But she's saying
here. Oh my God.
Oh, he's my extra ring light. He's got my lighting right for this live.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Dr. Cindy M. Duke just joined the live, you guys. That's our warrior doctor who comes on to talk about all things women's health and fertility. So make sure you check all of those out on Warrior Wednesdays IGTV. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk adoption.
Oh, I lost light. I'm serious. Like, he is literally creating a strobe lighting experience for me.
Well,
there we go.
There's a surprise I think that's coming before we get into adoption.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, baby. Hi, my love. Nico too was on that trip to Acapulco.
He sure was.
He sure was.
Hi, everybody. People that don't know, this is Nico Anand, who is my godbrother, who is also family to NK, who is also playing the amazing Uncle Clifford on P-Valley. So he is in the room. He is in Atlanta. I'm in Chicago. NK is in LA. All these Black people on shows doing things. But he's here to also say hello to NK, give her a surprise on National Adoption Day. What's up, Nico?
I love you, Nico.
No, I love you.
Oh, that's Elijah, who's going to be our topic of conversation for today. He's got a new strobe. He got a new strobe headlight. He's really excited about it, so he keeps turning off the lights everywhere so he can put on his new headlight.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Welcome to my world.
Thank you. You know what I'm saying? Happy National Adoption Day.
Amen. Amen. I'm so excited to see you.
Way of life. I know, right? We all were just texting earlier in the weekend. It was just
I know.
I need some of that though.
You do.
What is that?
Listen,
Shiraz, Merlot? Y'all
I have hotel wine. People are like, ain't no crying in the pink. Nico is the truth. He's the absolute truth. And for those that don't know, see, these are the things that people don't know, is that there was an episode of All American, the Cotillion episode, right? That Nico and Rhapsody James choreographed. What y'all don't know is he's not just Uncle Clifford on P Valley, which is where we all love him from, but he's also behind the scenes. The thing about NK and what she does so beautifully and brilliantly is that she reaches out to all of her friends to come aboard the shows, the jobs, the things, and we all do it. We all circle around. So we all met on that trip to Acapulco.
We all met on that trip. We all rise together. It's not like, listen, if I didn't have talented friends, I wouldn't have been inviting y'all to nothing. The truth is, y'all are amazing. Y'all are talented. Y'all make my life so easy. And I always feel like I'm imposing on y'all when I shoot a text like, yo, what you doing? You want to come hang out on All American? Like, what you doing? You want to come help us choreograph? What? Like, Nico, and I'll tell you guys this because he's choreographed for us a few times now. But let me tell you, when we were getting ready to do,
I'm nervous.
No. When we were getting ready to do the homecoming episode, Nico was shooting P Valley, and it was his. I mean, talk about lead actor, series regular, like just murdering it. It hadn't come out yet. I knew he was still in Atlanta shooting the show. So I'd only called him. I think I texted him and was like, yo, I need you to recommend a choreographer because we have this thing coming up. And I know, and literally Nico was like, I can do it. I said, what do you mean? I was like, you're working on P Valley. You're a lead actor, everything. He was like, I land tomorrow. I will be there. I got you. Like, what do you mean any other choreographers? And literally got off a plane from shooting his own show. Showed up at All American, was like, what are we doing? What do you need? What do we need to choreograph? We're here. That's family.
Dances, what we gotta do.
That's right. Love. And like, and even in additional stuff we have going on where he's been shooting P Valley, so he hasn't been available, but his partner, Rhapsody James, who's his choreographing partner, Nico will be texting us from set like, okay, so is Rhapsody on the Zoom? I'm like, Nico, we got this. Go be great. We got this. We miss you. The minute you're done, we'll have you back. But Rhapsody is holding it down. He's literally texting me from set like, you got everything you need. What you need? You okay? That's family.
I love it. Yep. You got to stick together.
Yeah. Network across, man. Like it was Acapulco Black Film Festival back then.
Yes, it was.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I'm here for it. It's nothing but love and spreading the love, going beyond ourselves. That's what it's all about.
Indeed.
It is. Well, I miss you. Nico, I'm not going to keep you long. I know people are saying bring P Valley back. It is coming back, y'all. Nico is in Atlanta currently shooting season 2 of P Valley. So it is coming back. Is there anything that you want to share with us, Nico, about it?
I just love how you guys are ushering it all across. I'll just say, like I told NK earlier this week, and he was like, how you doing? I was like, I said the writers in the writers room this season have given us an emotional Olympics to go through. So, pom pom.
Amen.
We are ready to watch.
We are. All right. Well, this is my outdoor pandemic crew. Like during the pandemic, we did meet at NK's house outside and have wine. I think we were 12 feet apart, but I just needed to see the trio again. And John, if he hops on a little bit later. But Nico, thank you for coming on to say hello and happy National Adoption Day to our dear NK.
Give love to my nephews.
Of course. We love you. We miss you. Be safe and hurry home.
For sure. Bye, y'all.
I love you. All right, bye-bye. I just had to do that, NK, because you know how
that
we do.
That makes me so happy.
Well, we're family up in here. So, okay, let's get into it. I want to talk about you becoming a mother. Yes. First and foremost, did you always want to be a mother?
There was never, oh, can you hear me?
Go ahead. Now I got you. You froze for a second.
So yeah, no, I did. I always did. There was never a doubt in my mind that I wanted to be a mother. My mom is like, I call her the ultimate superwoman. Y'all will probably be able to hear her cackling in the background. She's watching her shows, probably General Hospital.
I love it.
But she's in town for Thanksgiving. But and so my mom is, I call her the original OG superwoman because she raised 4 children by herself. And then there was my aunts. My mom has a lot of sisters. And they were all sort of surrogate moms. And then our neighbors, my best friend's parents, Auntie Dooney was like a second mom to me. She was my best friend Ima's mother. And so there were always all these amazing mother figures in my life. So it was never a doubt in my mind that I wanted to be a mom. The thing I knew though, and I have no idea why, but from a very early age, when I was very young, when I was still playing with dolls, I always said, if God gave me the ability to have kids, I wanted to have one, and then the rest I wanted to adopt. It turned out the rest was one, because 2 kids, they overpower you after that, and I refused to lose in my own house. But
I refuse to lose in my own house. I love that.
No, dance challenges are real, Wii games are real. Like, no, y'all not taking me out.
Right.
But I always knew from a very young age that I wanted to have one and adopt more. I just felt like there were so many kids in this world that were incredible blessings that for whatever reason hadn't found their home or hadn't been partnered with their families. And so I just felt like if I had the opportunity that I'd always want to adopt. And it's hilarious because I would tell boyfriends that even at like 16, I'd be like, so just so you know, when I'm older, I'm going to adopt. So you need to be good with that. And they'd be like, okay, I'm like 15 and I just wanted to go get ice cream. And I'm like, I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. But yes, so
I love that. It's almost like we're going to get a chocolate. Yeah, we're going to get a chocolate cone, but at the same time, just know I want to adopt. And I think
exactly.
it's an amazing and a really beautiful thing to point out in this conversation, because it's almost like one of the things that we talk about here on Warrior Wednesdays on a Saturday, though, is about the call in our life, the purpose in our life, and the knowingness of something. So this was something that you knew from a very young age. You talked about it in your dating space. And obviously you are married to a wonderful man. You guys are meeting half of Team Carroll. Dr. John Carroll is NK's husband. So was this something that he immediately knew about you and was on board with, in terms of when you guys start your family and open up to it, adoption was on the table?
1000%. I am not kidding. I would bring it up on first dates, because if it was not something that was ever going to, as long as you were open to the idea, we were good, we could proceed. But if it was one of those things where it's like, no, I have to have a biological child, or there's no point in us continuing the date. So it literally was something I would bring up on first dates all the time. And so John and I went to college together. We didn't date in college, and actually we ran in very separate circles in college, but we went to college together, so there was that familiarity. So I'm not even sure if I told him when we were still friends, or if I actually mentioned it on our first date. But he knew very, very early on that adoption was part of the plan. It was part of the package. And I'll always remember, actually, no, it was on our first date, because I'll always remember his response was, I'm a teacher. Other people's kids are always my kids. I have no problem with that. And that was his response. So it was on our first date that I told him.
Do you see why? I mean, you married him, honey, but I love your husband, though. I love it, man. I love the fact that you said it on your first date. And I feel like that's such good life advice about anything, is to be strong in your convictions and to know who you are unapologetically, to state the thing that you want, the need that you have, and to know that this was a call in your life. This was something that just was in you, that felt like your truth, and you were going to move forward with it. And anybody that was going to jump on board with you was going to have to be on board with that. And he's a fabulous teacher, a fabulous mentor, and he is an outstanding father. So you guys get married. You and John get married.
Yep.
I was there.
Yes, you were.
My brother took the pictures.
Chuck was there. Yes, he did.
He took the pictures. And then you get pregnant. So can you tell us about your journey of being a pregnant woman?
Yeah, so we got married. I mean, we got married young. We got married at 25. And so we knew that we didn't want to have kids right away, because we were kind of like, we wanted to build this foundation between us that was just the two of us, that was an extension of our dating life, that was us really forming the foundation of Team Carroll. And then once we felt like we had that, we would want to introduce kids into the mix. And so we didn't have kids for several years, to the point where we found out after the fact that when we told everyone, like when we called the parents to be like, hey, guess what, we're pregnant and everything, They were all like, oh, praise Jesus. We thought John was shooting blanks this whole time and you just didn't want to tell us. We were like, what?
What?
We just wanted to hang together for a while. Like, but meanwhile, apparently there were prayer circles happening, convinced that there was something going on that we weren't telling them. And it was like, no, we were just enjoying each other's company and enjoying being married. And so, yeah, so when we finally, I was actually already, we were living in LA, we moved out here, got pregnant with Isaiah, which is crazy to me now because he is 6'5", people.
Y'all, I used to burp him. He has no business being 6'5".
The other day he walked into the kitchen and he was talking to me and he put his head on my chin so easily because that's how much taller than me he is. And I was like, fool, did you just? And he was like, well, it's right there. I was like, okay, listen. I was like, bring the step stool so I can talk to you in the eye. I was like, even though you're taller than me, I am still your mama.
All day.
But yeah, and you know what? And it was a good pregnancy. Like it was very sort of what one would describe as typical. You know, I had a lot of morning sickness though it wasn't the first 3 months. I was like, oh, that's like a joke. I had it for longer, considerably longer. But because I'm so tall and I honestly, I could have passed for not being pregnant until I think my 8th month.
Yeah, I was totally jealous of you, your whole pregnancy. From the back, and then NK did not look pregnant at all.
It was just one of those things where I'm like, are you sure he's in there and he's fine? And then my 8th month, it was like, oh, no, yep, she's having a baby. But interestingly enough, and I don't know, I mean, I'm just going to say it because it's my truth. I don't know how people are going to feel about this, but it wasn't one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, this was the best experience in the world. I want to make sure that Elijah, honey, I want to make sure that like I do this all the time. It wasn't that at all. It was very much, apparently he wants hugs right now.
Hi, Munchkin.
Auntie Kellee says, hi, Munchkin. It was very much one of those things where I was like, okay, I experienced it and it was great. Wasn't a great desire to experience it again. But that wasn't the reason why we adopted. It was just, that had always been the plan. But after like, it was one of the, because also, I should mention this, I don't do pain, like at all. At all.
So the pain of childbirth was something that you didn't need to revisit.
No, and honestly, but I knew that even, you know, it was the first Lamaze class where they kind of show you what it's going to look like. And I was like, oh, yeah, about that bowling ball size. I'm not sure about all that. I was like, what are my other options? And my doctor was like, no. She was like, the other options are for if you can't do that. And I was like, well, let's just discuss. I was like, let's just discuss because I don't. Do you want to give the talk for me?
You are the star of the show.
People watching this right now. Do you want to give the talk for me? See all those names right there? Those are all people who are listening to us right now.
You and your story.
Yeah. And so it was one of those things where I remember when my best friend, when she had her baby, she called me from the hospital. She was like, before the endorphins and everything kick in, she was like, only because I know you. She was like, I'm going to tell you this right now. She's like, girl, like, you're not going to be able to handle this. And I was like, no, don't say that. I'll be good. But then, yeah. And it was great. And I ended up having a C-section. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things where, you know, I'd always been like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle childbirth. I don't know how I'm going to do with all of that. And then he wouldn't come out. And the doctors were like, so we're going to have to go in and get him. And I started hysterically laughing. And the doctors thought I was having a breakdown. And they're like, C-sections are totally normal. It's going to be fine. And John was like, no, you don't understand. She's been paying for this. She wanted someone to go in.
She did not want to push.
He was like, that's laughter of like pure joy. And again, this is all God, because when they actually did the C-section and they went in, Isaiah was sitting crisscross applesauce, holding on to the umbilical cord. My baby listened to me. He said, Mom said, nope. And so he was literally sitting there. So he literally
was like, I'm not going to get
He was like, my instructions were don't come out. So he waited. And so the doctor was laughing when she was like, your son has his hand wrapped around the umbilical cord. He was not going anywhere until we came to get him. And that's when I knew. I was like, oh, he's going to listen to me. Um,
Oh.
and so yeah, so that was my pregnancy experience with Isaiah, and it turns out for someone who doesn't do pain, I heal from surgery very easily. And so even though it was a C-section, I was back up and moving, within a day or two very quickly. And so yeah, we went home and we went from 2 people to 3 people and started the process of, oh my gosh, I'm in charge of some other human being's life. And it was sort of
Mm.
the wake up call of I have to keep him alive.
Yeah.
And that has been our journey.
Amazing. And as you became a new mom, you both were new parents. Had you discussed when you were going to bring your second son into the family? Had you discussed the timing
Yeah,
of the process of adoption?
we knew that we always wanted Isaiah to be the older sibling
Mm-hmm.
because we felt that it was important that he sort of have his time with us because we always wanted to adopt through the foster care system. We just felt
Mm-hmm.
like, there are a lot of different routes you can go for adoption, and different routes work for different people. For us, we felt so strongly about the number of Black kids that are in our foster care system, and specifically Black boys. And so our plan was always, we'll at least try going through the foster care system. And then if it gets crazy, because you hear all these stories about just like the systemic dysfunction in just sort of how the government handles foster to adoption and everything. So we were like, okay, listen, we're going to try it. We know it's not going to be easy. We understand that it can take years. But we were like, we want to, whatever we end up doing through the foster care system, we figured it was going to take time and effort and work. And so we wanted to make sure that Isaiah had his time with us and that he would always be sort of the older sibling to whatever child we added to complete our family. And so we knew shortly after Isaiah was born, we were like, okay, three to it could take 3 years to get kids from the foster care system. It just depends. And we wanted as close to newborn as possible. And when you adopt through the foster care system, you can do age ranges.
Mm-hmm.
So our age range was 0 to 2. So that meant it could be a newborn or it could be a 23-month-old.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing that and wanting Isaiah to be the oldest and everything, we figured round about when he was about 3 or 4 years old, we would start the process, assuming it would take another, couple years. You have to go through training. You have to do these parenting classes. They have to approve your home, and then you enter the system, and then you're waiting, especially because we were on the younger side. We were looking for a child on the younger side. We knew the wait would be longer. And so in our minds, I think we thought, okay, this is going to take like 3 years. Isaiah will probably be about, 7. Girl, it took 8 months.
8 months. Okay, now because I know the story, but I want to back up a little bit because I want to know how because Isaiah was so young at the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So was there a conversation of letting him know, because the three of you are adopting? It's not just mommy, it's not
Yeah.
just daddy, it's Isaiah as well. So because he is so young and there's only so much that a child that age can understand, what was the conversation and how was it received with him, knowing you're going to be a big brother? We're going to go through a process before we meet your little brother. But what was that conversation for you guys as parents, and how was it received for him? For those people that might be out there that are thinking of adopting and that may have a child already, or even if they don't, what's the conversation that you have with your son, and branch it out even more to some family members as well?
Honestly, it's the first thing is know your family and know your child. We
Come
knew
on, NK.
Isaiah was, he has such a big heart and he's such an empath, and he is very much a mini me. And so we knew we could have an honest conversation where we're like, listen, we want to adopt. We explained what that meant. We gave him the unfiltered truth as if we were talking to an adult, because we knew that worked for Isaiah. And that's why I say it's important to know your child, because for some
Mm.
other children, they're going to need it explained a little differently. And I have nothing to do with this show whatsoever, but I'm going to shout it out because they did such a phenomenal job. Is Doc McStuffins on Disney Junior did such a phenomenal job with their adoption storyline. And when Doc McStuffins' the family decided they were going to adopt, and Doc McStuffins got to meet her new sibling, and they handled it so beautifully. And I was so excited because I was like, I could put on a cartoon and be like, that's us. That's our family. That's this is our story. And it just helped gel it for the kids because they saw characters that they had watched every Saturday morning or whatever going through the same thing, and suddenly it made it seem normal and real, and not this like weird crazy thing that our family was doing that their friends' families weren't doing. It just made it all normal for them. And so for Isaiah, we just had a really honest conversation, and he was by this time he was about 4. And so he was just like, okay, so, and you have to get the house ready. As soon as you take the training classes, you have to get the house ready. So we had a crib sitting in Isaiah's room with no baby in it. And he was like, so the baby's going to go in there. And we're like, yes. And he's like, when? And we're like, we don't know.
We don't know.
We're on this ride together. And when they call us, we had to take the classes and we had to do all these things. And we made him very much part of the process of even getting the house ready and all the proofing we had to do and locks we had to put on liquor cabinets. And because it's even, I honestly believe that all parents should have to go through the same classes that foster parents have to go through. Because
I want you to talk to us about those classes.
Absolutely.
Because now that we know that he was part of the process, for those people, even like myself, you know, that have not walked these steps, that maybe have considered it, and you guys went through the foster care system, can you tell us a little step by step of what the process is in terms of applying, meeting with social workers, what the requirements are for your home before they start to come? Can you give us a little bit of what you, John, and Isaiah went through as you were preparing to adopt?
So we, literally, I think I went on Child Protective Services, the Department of Children and Family Services. I went on their website because I was like, I don't know. I didn't know where to start. I knew where to start if I wanted to do a private adoption, but to adopt through the foster care system, I was like, okay. So I literally went to the Child and Family Services website for Los Angeles County, and went to their Q&A section and basically was like interested in fostering to adopt. And they very clearly on the website sort of outline the steps. And so the first step was an orientation meeting that they hold to really walk through the steps of what it means to foster to adopt. And they do it, they used to have separate tracks where it was like, okay, if you're waiting to adopt or if you want to foster. And now they do it sort of together where it's called foster to adopt. So you have families in the system who just want to foster, and that's absolutely fine. And then for those who are interested in adopting, they call it foster to adopt, so that it means the child can be in your home before the adoption is finalized. Because sometimes it can take a while to finalize the adoption. And so if you're not their foster parent during that process, they're not living with you. And so we went through the orientation, and actually it was in that orientation. Originally, we just went in saying we wanted to adopt a Black child because the numbers in the system are bananas. And so we were like, we have the means to provide, we want to adopt a Black child. And when I tell you the numbers are bananas, I mean insane. Literally bananas. Like there will be perfectly healthy Black children in the foster care system, and people will be like, you know what, we're gonna wait and hope that a different ethnicity kid becomes available. And it's at a really disproportionate rate. And so we went into the orientation meeting okay, we have a boy already, it might be kind of cool to have a girl, so but we just, you know, as long as it's a Black child. And then we heard the statistics for Black boys, and the statistics for Black boys are the least adopted
children. Yes
The misinformation out there has led people to believe that Black boys are too much work, that Black boys and I'm literally quoting things that other people have said in rejecting an adoption of a Black boy. They're too much work, they're too spirited, they grow up to be too much trouble, they're going to be headed to they come from certain environments, and they're going to be headed into certain systems, they're going to be they're more predisposed to end up in prison. I'm literally quoting things that people have said as reasons why they did not want to get involved in the process. And we were sitting, and John and I were sitting in there, and I remember we looked at each other as these statistics were thrown out, and we were like, this is insane. We're like, we're raising a Black boy right now. And like, he's amazing, and his spirit and his joy and his love for life, and the idea that people would put a certain future on them because of whatever they've heard, learned, whatever, was just devastating to us. So we immediately raised our hand. We were like,
boy,
what's the wait time if we wanted to adopt a Black boy? And they were literally like, you could probably get one pretty quickly, depending on the age range you want, depending on, you know, if you're willing to, you know, they have all these, they're very honest because they want to reduce the risk of people taking a child and then returning them. So they ask you to be very honest about what you and your household can do. So they'll be very honest about, can you take a baby that's been exposed to drugs? Can you take a baby that's been exposed to alcohol? Can you take a baby that's been exposed to abuse? There is a whole list, and they just want honest answers. There is no judgment because they want to make sure they're placing the right child in the right home so that we're not dealing with something that was happening a lot, which is people would take in a child to foster adopt and then be like, oh, I didn't realize it was so much work, and they hand the child back, which is doubly traumatizing because they now think they found a forever home, and then it's like, just kidding, here you go. So
and these are the things that start to create many more abandonment issues. This is the systematic racism, and these are the things that we talk about here, because the health inequities and the foster care system inequities, the adoption inequities. You know, we had Eloise Drain on Wednesday, who is a 6-time egg donor and a 3-time surrogate, a Black female who started the first egg donation and surrogate agency in the state of Georgia. Wow. She is a Black woman, not the first Black one. The first surrogacy agency in the state of Georgia is a Black woman, and she was a surrogate herself, and they said Black women are not infertile to her. And so these are the myths that need to be debunked. These are the reasons that we do this live. That is why NKECHI is here today, to make sure that you are aware of the things that are not true, the things that are true, the way that we are spoken about in our healthcare system, our foster care system, our adoption system. And can you guys put some more flowers up or spirit hands for NK and John and the whole family? Because it's so beautiful that you intentionally wanted to bring a Black child into your home and debunk that myth with action, not with words.
Exactly.
With actually doing the thing and not with saying, damn, that sucks. But you're actually a part of the solution. And that's why I'm just so glad. I hope you can see there's fists and flowers coming up, that your family is a demonstration of the solutions that we need to take care of each other. Kellee Jen Rett, one of your actresses from Homecoming, is on here giving you flowers as well.
Hey, Kellee. Kellee's on here. I saw you, Alexis. What's up, good people? I love it. All the All-American fans who are on here, I see you. Nicole, I did not know you were adopted. That's a beautiful thing to celebrate. I love that all of y'all are on here.
I love it. Okay, so you guys are hearing all of these myths, and that is empowering you even more to say, you know, we want a Black child, and they're asking you some pretty rough questions.
Yeah. And
how did you take all of that? Because one of the things I want to make sure we know is that not everybody is built for the job. You have to know what you're getting into. So I think you brought up a really good point. So how did you take that on? What's the conversation between you and John about, can we handle a child that may have been abused, a child that may be born with from a drug addiction within utero? How do you handle that conversation?
Yes, you may drink that. Oh, wait, let me see. Let me make sure.
She a mom.
I'm having a mom moment. I'm so sorry.
She a mom first.
No, this is just, that's
so y'all just wait, because she gonna take care of her babies before she teaches y'all about adoption.
And so yes, I'm trying to remember, because I think they questioned us separately. Is that accurate? I think, so we went to the orientation. At the orientation, they tell you, okay, you're gonna have to do 6 weeks worth of classes, and it's 6 weeks worth of classes once a week for 6 hours. So it'd be a Saturday for 6 hours for 6 weeks. That is the required parenting classes that you have to take in order to be eligible to foster. In almost anywhere, I think it's the same, but definitely for the state of California. And so our biggest thing coming out of that orientation was just trying to coordinate our schedules. Because between me being a writer and John you know, being Mr. Educator Extraordinaire, and at the same time was also finishing his PhD in education.
He
And
adopted
so
y'all.
we, yes, he is. And so there was a lot in our lives. We were just trying to figure out what 6 Saturdays do we have in common? Where we can do that, and also make sure we had childcare for Isaiah because he can't come with us to the classes. It's a whole Saturday, all of that. So that was our main topic of conversation. We get in the classes, had the most amazing woman teaching the classes, and the person who teaches those classes then becomes your social worker through your foster to adopt process. Once a baby is found that's a match for your family, they will get their own social worker, but you as a family have your own social worker, and it's the person who taught your class.
Okay.
Her name is Kim, and she's amazing, and we love her, and she's family forever. And so it was, as part of those classes, one of the things you do as part of wrapping up the class is when they sit down and they start to go through the list with you of exactly what type of child are you willing to welcome into your home? What type of child do you feel would be a match for your family? And I remember there was a specific Saturday in the course where she was so specific about, this is not a judgment thing. This is honestly, no one is going to judge you for saying, I can't do this or I can't do that. It is really about finding the best fit for your family. And so I'm almost positive that John and I were interviewed separately, because also they want to make sure, like, one parent isn't dominating, you know what I mean? So they want to get a real feel from each parent
that
about
both
what
parents
they think.
equally, from what I understand, that both parents equally are doing this with goodwill and intention, and nobody's being forced to do it.
Exactly.
So
and it's honest about what they can handle, because it's one thing if you're like, yeah, no, I can take all of this, and then you're the one that's going to work and not home dealing with all the additional services and everything you might have to put in place for a child that has special needs. And so for us, you know, in full transparency, we were very, and I'm trying to remember if there was conversations we'd had in advance or if it just came out in the context of the class, but we had to be really honest about, given our careers and given the fact that we already had a child, what could we really, because we wanted to make sure that we were providing like an amazing, full, secure, fantastic home. Yes, my love.
And I think that that's so important, you guys. As she talks to her baby, it's so important to know what you are capable of. If adoption is something for you, to know what you are capable of without judgment and I was just saying what you were saying, that you guys had a conversation to know what you're capable of with your busy schedules, with your career, because the goal is to create a family and to be matched in a way where everybody is getting as much love and care and attention as possible. So I love the fact that you mentioned that there's no judgment in the way that you answer those questions, that it's all in truth. So take us to the process now of, they're going to come to your home, because there's going to be some screening that goes on. They're going to look into your background. You guys.
So you've done the classes. You've answered the questionnaire. We were very honest about, you know, if we hadn't had any other children, I think the breadth of what we would have been willing to make part of our family would have been much wider. We were very cognizant of, we did not want Isaiah to feel like, oh, I got a little brother and all of a sudden no one had time for me because all the services my little brother needed were dominating the time. So we were very much trying to figure out what is not only the best fit for John and I in terms of parents and the child we're bringing into our home, but again, the family, what was the best fit for us and Isaiah. And so once we answered the questionnaires, everything, they're like, okay, great. And now you're, I mean, honestly, it's the most fingerprinting I've ever been through in my life. It's multiple fingerprints. It's criminal history checks. It's FBI checks. It's everything. They check everything under the sun.
Everything.
I feel like we went through the fingerprinting process at least 4 or 5 times, like just to make sure nothing slipped through. So all of that is done. All of that's great. Now you have to get your home ready for inspection. It's kind of the last thing you have to do before they will officially enter you in the system as eligible foster parents. And so I remember we got the list and we were like, wait, should we have done all of this before the first child? We were literally like, oops. I mean, but again, because you're also adopted through the foster care system and this is through the government, like, I mean, they're very strict about what your home needs to look like to provide for the most safety. So even things like butter knives need to be put away. I'm like, it's a butter knife. They were like, nope, that needs a latch on the thing. And the liquor wasn't just put in a high cabinet. It was in a high cabinet and then padlocked with a combination lock that only John and I had. It was, I mean, we went through, it wasn't just having, again, we were in the 0 to 24 month age range of the child that we wanted to adopt. And so we had to have a crib. And so it wasn't just having a crib and the bedding and making sure like we had diapers and stuff in the house. It literally was the raid, cleaning products, everything. And it could, right. Yeah. And they had to be in, it wasn't just like, oh, it couldn't just be a latch on the cabinet. It had to be like, if that child pulled a stool, put a ladder on top of the stool and climbed on top of it, they still couldn't reach it. Like it was that sort of stuff. So we went through, and I still remember, I think we did it all in like 2 days. And the night before our inspection, we pulled an all-nighter. Like John and I are literally there with drills and locks and everything. And we're like, we wanted to make sure, we were so scared of not passing. We like over protected the house, but it was like everything was under lock and key. We're like, this child will only be able to grab a pillow this big. And so then the next day they came and did the inspection of the house. They inspected the house, they signed off. And then now we were officially eligible to enter the foster care system as eligible foster care parents who were interested in fostering to adopt. And I think we first went to orientation in like March. We took our classes. It took us a while to coordinate our schedules. I don't think we took our classes till like summer. And then the house was finally proofed and inspected, I think, September, October. And that's when we entered the system. And so that's when the clock starts, is once you're fully in the system. It doesn't start from orientation. The clock starts from once you're fully in the system and approved to be a foster family.
So the clock so when you say it took about 8 months, the clock starts after your inspection, after you pass the inspection. Mm-hmm. That's when you're officially in the system. Yeah. And now, so what is this, NK? Is this the waiting game? We're just waiting for, what are we waiting for?
You're waiting for a phone call. You're waiting for a phone call. And so you're waiting for your social worker, who is the one who taught your class, is now your point person. And if you get, and we had an amazing one, if you get a really good one, and we found out after the fact that actually there were a couple of matches that had come up that she didn't even bother to call us because she knew it wasn't a right fit for our family. She knew we were here to foster to adopt, that there was no and after having met me during the classes, she was like, oh, she can't foster and then give the child back. That's not, she won't function.
Right. We're not all built for that. Mm-hmm.
We're not all built for that. And
we're not all built for that.
And there were some families in the class who were thus there to foster, and man, we should be raising statues to them. Like what they do and the homes they provide and the security they provide is unbelievable. I have major attachment issues. Once, as every friend in my life knows, once I latch on, I latch on. Like it's the mafia. We're stuck for life. And so, and she even knew that. So there were a couple of matches that had come up, but it wasn't quite clear on if it would be an adoption or if there was a chance of reuniting the child with the family. And so she was like, She was like, we're not going to do that to the Carrolls. We're not going to do that to NKECHI because, the goal is reunification. The goal of the foster care system, they want to reunite them with their blood family. That is ultimately the goal. When that cannot be done, they want to find the next
suitable, healthy home.
Exactly. And so it's interesting because actually before we took the class, we were always of the mindset that like, once we adopted, we were building our family. Mm-hmm. After taking the class, both John and I had sort of sat down and had a conversation, and we're like, if the child we adopt has birth family anywhere that is willing to be part of his life, we need to make sure we do that. It became very important to us that if we could at all facilitate some kind of healthy connection with a birth family, no matter what kind of stress that was going to cause in our life, it was important to the health and the mental health of that child. And that's something that honestly, as much as we joked about, we already have a kid. Do we really need the parenting classes? Yes, you do. because there were things that are discussed in that class in the context of adoption and fostering and what that child will need that it just hadn't occurred to us. It was always about just creating our nuclear family. And the truth is, sometimes it's bigger than that. Sometimes there's a different definition of family. And that is what ended up happening in our case. And so we're in the system. We have Kimberly who's screening matches. We don't know this. And because we wanted a baby that was in the 0 to, you can have that, that's fine. That was in the 0 to 24 months range. And we could not do, a child with fetal alcohol syndrome, or we could not do a child. The drug exposure is a much bigger conversation, because then you start getting into the list of drugs and everything. And so we were very much sort of like, okay, given the parameters of what we've said would be a good fit for our family, they were like, okay, so it could be 2 years. It could be 2 years, just given the age range and also the parameters around the drug use, all of that stuff. So we were like, okay, child, I'm in the middle of getting my hair done. It is 8 months.
I was about to say, wait a minute, y'all. I know exactly where NK was.
When her phone rang. Tracks were half in, half out. I was getting my extensions done. Tracks are half in, half out. I'm at the hairdresser in Sherman Oaks. I just got on hiatus.
They got a picture, you guys. Her hair is not entirely in. Some of it is on the floor. Some of it is on here. And she's just going through her regular day. And that's what we need to know. Once you were approved, then it becomes a waiting game. And the phone can ring at any time. And so you're living life. Everybody is living. You're living life. You're hoping, you're praying, but you're living life.
And it was very tough for Isaiah at times, because the crib is in his room.
He's like,
so there's an empty crib in his room for 8 months.
He's like, Mom, Dad, give me my brother.
He wakes up in the morning and he sees the empty crib. So he's like, when is it happening? And we're like, buddy, we don't know, but it could be a couple years, but we have to have it ready. And in his mind, he's like, well, if we know it's not going to be for a couple of years, why do we have to have it ready now?
Why do we have this?
We have to keep having this conversation. And so, and literally, it was 8 months almost to the day. I'm at the hairdressers and getting my tracks put in. And I'm half in, half out. In fact, yes, that's right. I just come out of getting my hair washed and it's been blow dried, and she started to cornrow, and my phone rings and it's a number I don't recognize, and I answer it, and it's our social worker, and literally she starts with, girl, I have no idea how this is happening so fast. And she was like, but we have a baby for you. And she was like, it's a baby boy. He was born 2 days ago. He's perfectly healthy, and he is available for adoption. The hospital wants to know if you can come get him tonight. And I'm just like,
y'all,
I'm frozen, my hairdresser's frozen, we're all just like, and she was like, say something. And I was like, and in the class they teach you all the questions to ask, right? Because you can absolutely decline. Like, if you're not sure or whatever, they make this call, because they will literally pick up the phone and call the next family.
Call the next person.
And so they talk you through in the class all the questions you're supposed to ask. And I literally sat there, and not a single question I could not retain. Don't ask me what I was supposed to ask. I couldn't remember. I was just like, we have a baby. We have a baby. Oh my God. Isaiah was at school. He was in kindergarten. I was like, we have a baby. I'm 911 texting John, who's in the middle of teaching, and I'm blowing up his phone. I'm just, call me back, 911 text, everything, like, just now, I need you. And so finally he calls, and he was like, what is happening? I was like, we have a baby.
We have a baby.
And he literally froze, just like I did. And I was like, hello? And he was like, wait, like right now. I'm like, I know it's only been 8 months. I know we have no food or anything in the house, because 0 to 24 months eats different food. Zero eats very different food for 24 months. So all that stuff you pick up last minute. So literally we're
and Elijah was 2 days old.
He was 2 days old and was still in the hospital. 2 days old. And so I was like, they want to know if we can get him tonight. I was like, we don't even have the right diapers for a newborn in the house. Like, panic sets in. But he was like, but you said yes, right? He was like, please tell me you told them we'll take the baby. I was like, yes, I did say that part. I was like, but I didn't retain anything else. So we called the social worker back, and now I'm like a little calmer. So I'm like, okay. I was like, can we come see him tonight? But can the hospital keep him an additional day? I was like, we need to get formula. We need to get, and she was like, that will be absolutely fine, everything. And so literally we came from, girl, my hairdresser put my hair in a turban. We came from opposite directions because John was coming from teaching. I was coming from the hairdressers in Sherman Oaks. And so, and we're halfway, we're driving and we're on the phone with each other as we're driving in separate cars to meet at the hospital. And we were suddenly like, we need a name. And so, and neither of us had a name. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to come up with my list in the car. You come up with your list in the car. And then we'll double check lists when we get to the hospital. But we didn't want to walk into the room without a name. And so when we got to the hospital, we both get out of our cars and Elijah was a name that was on both of our lists.
Oh.
And so we had been, yes, both kids have prophet names, Isaiah and Elijah. And so, we both had our list of names and Elijah was a match. So we were like, okay, we're like, his name is Elijah. And so we get to the hospital, our social worker, who apparently was supposed to be her day off, but she was like, I'm not missing this for nothing. So she was there. And we get to the hospital and they're like, and they walk us in. And the first time he opened his eyes was when we walked in the room.
Oh God, when things are meant to be.
When things are meant to be.
The first time he opened his eyes is when you guys walked into the room.
Mm-hmm. And so, but newborn babies can look like a lot of things. Yeah. And so we both walk in, we're all like, there's tears, there's crying, everything. And we both looked down and John turns and looks at me and he was like, did we ask the ethnicity when they called? And I was like, no. I was like, but we put it on the list and we really, like, it hadn't even occurred to me. And we both look at him and he looked Korean. And so we were like,
you specified we want a Black child.
And so we're both looking at him and John's like, okay, so you didn't ask. I was like, I forgot all the questions, blah, blah, blah. And so the poor nurse is like, is there a problem? Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I can find out what, we're like, no, he's ours. We just need to know what we're celebrating. We need to know culturally what we're doing. I was like, we're not changing our minds.
First of all,
like, we're just trying to fill in the blanks. Like, no, he's our baby. Like, we're leaving the hospital with our baby. We just want to know what he is so we know what to culturally celebrate.
I need to stop you because that is so absolutely beautiful that it was instantly, did you guys hear that? Put down celebrate in the comment section. We want to know what we are celebrating. We don't care. He's ours. He's here. You've called us. We are here. We have fallen in love. He opened his eyes. We both have the name Elijah. He is our son and he is going home with us. But we just want to be sure. We want to know who we are celebrating and what culture we are bringing into our family. And I love the fact that everyone's writing celebrate down there, that was the instinctual experience that you guys had. And so, but just tell us a little bit about the emotion that you're feeling in the moment you first, I know Elijah opened his eyes for the first time and saw you, but for you and John, what was the emotion you felt like it's happened, NK?
I know,
there.
we were honestly, it didn't feel that different from when they first put Isaiah in my arms. There was just such a rightness. There was such a rightness to like, our family's complete. And for me, that's always, and we'll get to this part, but Elijah knows he's adopted. We talk about it all the time. And it's one of the things we talk about like, God chose us to be a family. That's so amazing. Like, it doesn't matter how he did it, whether it was that I gave birth or that he connected. Like, my entire family is the gift that God gave me. He just gave it to me in different ways. But so when we walked in the room, that's why when John started cracking jokes about, do we have a Korean baby? It was jokes because we're like, we're not giving him back. Like, this is ours. Like, they're gonna have to fight me to take this child from my hands. So it was just a question of, okay, we just, as much information as we can get. Because the birth mom had already left the hospital and everything. So it was whatever anyone at the hospital knew, essentially. So it turns out he's not Korean, even though it would have been awesome if he was, because South Korea was one of my specialties when I worked at the Federal Reserve. I was like, I actually kind of speak the language.
I remember that. I remember those days.
It turned out that his birth mother was Dominican. And was Black and like darker than John, like significantly. The doctor and the nurse were able to tell us, but I'm like, whatever the other genes are, they were strong. And so, but we were like, okay, great. We had all the information we can get. So the hospital kept him that night. We came home just like spent way too much money at Target on everything that the baby did not need, because we were like, he must have everything. And literally it's like, we have all of this in the house from Isaiah. But it was like, no, he needs his own come home outfit and he needs his own, like, all of it. And so we came back home. We got everything set up. I was part of a mom's group called Mom to Mom, that are based here in the San Fernando Valley, and they had already rallied, like, because I'd been on the phone with them on my way down, like, oh my God, the baby's here. I mean, they got diapers. Those ladies rallied, so that by the time I got home, there were already supplies waiting for us. And so then the next morning we got Isaiah, and we drove down, and they officially discharged Elijah to us. Now, he was discharged to us as our foster child because the adoption is not finalized. And when you adopt through the foster care system, technically it's foster to adopt. We hit a slight glitch in that the birth mother, who had very clearly articulated to everyone that she was giving her child up for adoption, did not sign over her parental rights before she left the hospital. And so the call we got was, we're going to find her. We're going to do, but right now, technically, you can't adopt him because he has legal parents. And those parental rights have not been terminated, either by the court or by his birth family. And so it was a moment of panic of, what are you telling me?
What are you telling me?
Are you telling me someone can show up and say they changed their mind and now I have to give Elijah back? Like, it was, and listen, I'm just going to tell y'all, because to keep it real, I was like, everybody's passports are updated in my purse. I was like, if I need to be on a plane to Nigeria, John knew the text symbol he was going to get, which meant meet me at LAX, because we're getting on that Delta flight. We're changing planes in Atlanta. We're going to be in Nigeria in exactly 14 hours.
What everybody here is watching doesn't know is she's not kidding.
No.
No, she's not
I was like,
kidding.
This is my baby. I was like, no.
That's
I
your
was
baby.
like, and
you're not taking my baby. Yes.
And
remember, you guys, she knew at 15 years old she was adopting, and so there's your baby, and you were like figure it out, because you're not knocking on this here door and getting my child. Nope. I love it.
And but then that did lengthen the process for when we could adopt him, because now his parental rights had to be terminated through the court system. And the court system takes terminating parental rights very seriously. It did not matter that we had doctors and nurses testify on stand that they heard her say very publicly that she wanted to give her child up for adoption. Because
so doctors and nurses testified in court that she said it, but even still was a process.
Because she hadn't signed the paperwork. So they're like, we hear you, and we understand, and the court, and what the court kept saying, which I did appreciate. At the time, I was like losing my mind, but I appreciated what the judge was saying, which is, I'm doing this for you because I want every I dotted, every T crossed, because you don't want, when your child is 14 years old, for someone to show up out of the blue and say they did not follow due process. Wow. That is my child. I want to reclaim them. And he's like, they would have every legal right. And so the judge is like, it feels like we're punishing you, but we're not. He's like, I'm doing this for you.
I'm trying to protect you.
Yeah. And so it was like, okay. And I'm a Christian. So I was like, we're going to pray about it a lot. And I also had the passports ready to go and all of it. And so the process involved with terminating parental rights meant they had to put an ad in a newspaper in case there was a grant, because again, the foster care system,
in case there's a grandparent,
in case there's a grandparent, an aunt, or whoever who's like, no, that's my blood, because their goal is to reunite with blood. Right, and they really talk you through that in the foster care classes, because if that's something you cannot handle, they strongly encourage that you look at other means of adoption, because
whether that be private adoption or
because they strongly encourage, if you're doing it through the foster care system, it means this child has blood family that has likely been in their life, that is somewhere, and their goal is
to reunite if possible,
in some way, shape, or form. And so our social worker had done everything humanly possible to find a match where she knew that was not going to be the case, so that it'd be a clean adoption. However, the birth mother we later found out the reason why she didn't sign the paperwork was because she just had such a hard time knew it was the right thing she wanted to do for her child, but had such a hard time.
Yeah.
She needed to get out of that hospital. And so she just left.
Yeah.
And the reason why we know that is because my youngest son has a birth brother who was adopted through the foster care system the year before. We found that out.
Story.
We found out because they ask you if it turns out that there's any blood relative or something in the system, are you interested in having a relationship with that person? And, you know, John and I talked about it and we're like, listen, everyone in this family was connected through blood except for him. Isaiah is our birth child. And while for us, there was no difference, we were very aware that for him, he's the only one that's not blood connected to us. And so I was like, if he has blood somewhere in LA, he should know them. He should know them. He should have a relationship with them so that he always has that connection in his life. That was always our position. And it was my position that if he ever decided one day, you know, I really do want to find my mom, I have questions, that I would swallow whatever my feelings are about it and be like, cool, let's go find her. Let's get your questions answered, because I understand that that's all part of his identity and what he needs to know, regardless of whatever insecurities or whatever that creates in me. It's not about me, it's about him. And so we actually got a call from the foster care system, and our adoption still wasn't legal because now the process was lengthened out, or still wasn't finalized because the process was lengthened out because the court system had to terminate parental rights. That takes 6 months. And then once the parental rights were finally terminated, now we could start the adoption process. And so we're still going through all of this, and social services calls and they say he has a brother. We found a brother who's in the system. It is a blood brother. He was adopted the year prior. He's a year older than him, almost to the day. If that brother should ever reach out, if that family should ever reach out, are you guys willing to meet? And so we're like, of course, we want to meet. And so something in my gut at the time said, but let's finalize the adoption. And I was like, I know it's silly. I know it's stupid. I was like, but let's just get all the paperwork done. Let's get the adoption finalized. And I don't know
well, let me just say this, something in your gut, but something as a mother.
Yeah.
I believe that the mother protector in you knew, yes, but first.
I was like, let's just get just to get everything done. Finished, done, paperwork signed. And so we did. And the adoption was finally finalized. It was a great day. We go to a court in downtown LA. They give out all these bears. It's a whole beautiful experience. The judge was fantastic. We went to Giggles and Hugs afterwards as a family to celebrate, the four of us. And Elijah was officially Teen Carroll. And so it was like a week later, our social worker called. And so she's like, so, you know, I waited till the adoption was finalized. I reached out to his brother's adopted family. And in my head, I'd already started planning joint Thanksgivings, trips to Disneyland together, how we were going to manage the sleepovers, like all of it. I'd gone there. The writer in me had already written the opus of what these two boys' life was going to be like. And so we get the call, and she's like, there was a little bit of a mix-up. They seem to be unaware that their son had a birth brother who was up for adoption, because if they'd known, they would have wanted to adopt him. Now, California law says they're required to contact the families, the adopted. If there's a birth sibling, they call that family first, and they ask if you want to adopt your child's sibling, or foster your child's sibling. You have to say no in order for it to trigger the next. Okay, now this will go to the next family. So someone had to say no for us to get the call, but there seemed to be confusion over who, what, where. It was a mess. And so if I had not waited till we finalized the adoption.
That's what I said. The mother in you knew.
They could have absolutely petitioned the court and likely would have won, because he would have been placed with his brother, who's a blood sibling with another adopted family. And so my heart broke, because I was like, man, like he's not going to get to know his brother. He's not going to get to know, and I was like, and he's somewhere in LA. And so I cried about it, because that's what I do. And then I was like, okay. I was like, you know what? Maybe when they're 18. If maybe maybe it just wasn't supposed to happen now. Because at the time Elijah was 2 and his brother was 3. And so I was like, maybe it's not supposed to happen now. Maybe when they're 18, like a lot of things can happen. Like we'll give it time. And so kind of let that dream go. 9 months later, we get a call out of nowhere from our social worker. The family had reached out to her again, profusely apologetic. It turned out they'd had a crisis in their family at that time. And as a result, we're really going through it. And so one parent had taken that call and made a decision for the family, but had not informed the other one. And that was the mix up and everything. And they were like, listen, our son has no other siblings. Of course, we would love for him to know his birth brother. They have a shared experience in that they're both adopted by other families. And so would they be willing to meet? And so we
get your tissues, y'all. Get your tissues.
At first, I was like, my panic was like, no, protect bubble. Like this is already.
Well, you're a mama bear, right?
And then again, it's not about me.
And then you release
it's about Elijah, and it's about the fact that he has a birth brother that shares blood with him somewhere in LA. For all I know, they go to school together. Like I'm like, I don't know, like. And so we agreed to do a meet in the park. Our social worker agreed to be there. Their social worker agreed to be there. We're like, we'll have as many buffers and mediators or whatever, but let's at least have the boys meet. And so the Doc McStuffin episode had aired. We'd shown it to the boys. We'd had a whole conversation. We had a whole conversation with Isaiah about the fact that we were going on a play date to meet Elijah's birth brother. And so, Isaiah's like, so just so I'm clear, Elijah's my brother, but he has a birth brother. That birth brother is not my brother, but he's my brother's brother. So he's kind of like a stepbrother. And this is 7 years old. And so we're like, stepbrother is great. That is a great way to think about him.
I love
stepbrother is a really good way to look at it. So we're all in this car on this long drive for this play date. Meanwhile, Elijah's 3. I think all he heard was play date. We tried to explain, and we're like, remember how we said you didn't come from mommy's tummy, and this brother we're going to meet, he came from the same tummy you did, and just like you, he has another mommy. And we tried to do the whole thing, and he's just looking at me and he's like, swings? I'm like, swings. There will be swings there, yes. So we're driving down, and one thing you guys need to understand is at the time, Elijah was a very insular child. He needed to be the one to initiate the hugs. He did not like being hugged first. He did not like loud noises. He did not like being touched. Everything needed to sort of be initiated by him on his terms for his comfortability, his anxiety. There was a lot going on. Clearly, you wouldn't guess it by the child that was climbing all over me a few minutes ago. But when he was younger, absolutely, it was very much his world. And he was very protective of that space. And so we get to the park, get out of the car. We're all there. We see our social worker. He's there. And I'm holding Elijah's hand. He's 3 years old. I'm holding his hand. He's 3. His brother's 4. And I'm explaining to him, I'm like, okay, we're going to go meet your brother's family. And we're going to have a play date. And all of a sudden, he just lets go of my hand and takes off running. Now, bear in mind, there was also a parking lot involved. So I'm like, sweet Jesus, not in front of the social worker. Please don't run across the parking lot. But I mean, like, takes off running. Gone. We're all like, what is happening? Made a beeline. Do you want a snack?
I know, y'all.
Yes.
It's true, okay. But it grabs at you.
Okay. We'll get something in a couple minutes. Or grandma can get you a snack while you're waiting.
No snack.
Okay.
Chili's.
Chili's?
It's Chili's.
Guys, what do you think? Should he have Chili's for dinner? He really wants Chili's.
I say yes. He can have whatever he wants today.
Okay. That was a yes.
But Elijah,
right.
I can't call the shots, Elijah.
Auntie Kellee said yes. You're right. That is what you read on her mouth. It was a yes. Okay. We'll do that. We'll order some. Okay. Okay.
Hey,
give mommy a few more minutes. Ooh. Give mommy a few more minutes to finish. Here, you can take this. And then
mommy back in just a few.
Yes. And then we will absolutely do Chili's. And so takes off running, parking lot, everything. John and I are like, oh my gosh. And so he makes a beeline he spotted his brother's adopted family before we did, and spotted his brother before we did, and has never met him before in his life. Hadn't even seen pictures. We did not know what they look like. I only knew because they were standing near our social worker. Him and his brother run into each other's arms. There was something in him that just
identified.
identified. And bear in mind, I just said that he is not someone who would hug easily, or like till today, his brother is still the only person who could literally like sit on his head and he would not say a word. Who can like just grab on him and do whatever, and it's just like, okay. And so yeah, they had this moment, and so now they're hugging. I'm crying, my husband's crying, my Elijah's brother's family is crying, the social worker is crying, and we all have shades on at this point, and we're just like everyone was trying to be cool.
Y'all
and
are
we
done.
were just like we're done being cool, like everyone's weeping. And so the boys are like, they ran off to go play on the slide, and so Isaiah's like, I'll go with them, and he was like, he facilitated soccer games and all that stuff while we sat around and just talked. And the most fantastic family, his brother's adopted family, super fantastic family. And since that point, we have, because their birthdays are less than a week apart, so we now do birthdays together. We've done Marvel Live together. Our families, in fact, are both our moms, both the grandmas, so both my mom and my husband's mom are very good friends with Elijah's brother's adopted family, and especially the mom, because they all like just they sit like, I mean, all they're missing is Parcheesi to play. They just sit and talk and eat together while the kids are playing. And so we have this, you know, non-traditional blended family. And so even when Elijah was in school and he would talk about his two brothers, and the teacher would hit us up like, you know, he keeps talking about this other brother, and we keep trying to tell him like he only has one brother, and we're not sure why. And we're like, no, he doesn't. He's not confused about his truth. I was like, he does have another brother. I was like, he has a birth brother who has an adopted family I was like, but he absolutely has two brothers in his life, and please don't correct him. And they would be like, oh my gosh, we didn't know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but he told you. He told you. It just didn't seem right or normal to you. So you're like, oh, something we need to make sure. And I'm like, no,
it just didn't seem right or normal to you.
Yes.
And I hope that every parent on here heard what you said, and doesn't matter through birthing your own child, adopting a child, that's your child. He's not confused about his truth. Mm-hmm. He's not confused about his truth. And you being able to advocate to make sure the adoption was legal and done through all of those glitches, you having the motherly instinct to hold that deer and the passport over here, because girl, I would have been able to get you out of jail because I would have went to Nigeria with you.
I know.
And you know this. I'd be like, well, we just all going to jail because we keeping Elijah. We got our baby now. But for you to be able to use that instinct, and to also be able to so selflessly know that since you were given the news that Elijah had a birth brother in LA, willing to meet, and he is such a beauty, everything is on Elijah's space and Elijah's time. He doesn't just invite y'all in. He has to trust you. For him to take that beeline to that connection, and for you to facilitate it and witness it, it's such a beautiful thing. It is the stuff, it is the magic of what this gift of adoption is. And one of the things that I want to point out, and I know you guys all feel this way, is that God always has a whole plan.
A whole plan.
Because he had to put you all together, and knowing that you would take those steps, that day in the park would happen, and he would not be confused about his truth. And I just think it's just, you never know as you walk down these roads how the story is going to continue to connect.
Yeah. I mean, we say it all the time. We've got two brothers who share a mom, who, for reasons outside of her control, had to give her kids up for adoption through the foster care system, and has no idea that whatever her prayers were answered, because her two sons are being raised together, knowing each other, growing up together. What their relationship will look like as adults is up to them, but we wanted to facilitate the relationship so they could decide what type of brothers they want to be when they're older. It will be a decision that is born out of them knowing each other and having had a relationship. And it's one of those things where I sit down and I'm like, she did what she had to do.
She did
for
what
her
she had to
sons
do.
know each other. Her sons not just know each other, they like love each other and are growing up together. They send, we send videos back and forth. It's always like, I want to record a video and fine, yes, here, I can't send it. It's midnight. We'll send it to him in the morning. Like, but it is very important to me that he had, again, because we have a birth child that is blood connected to us. It was very important to me that he have someone in his life that he have that same connection with, and he does now with his brother. And whatever they decide to do with that, however that looks,
will be up to them.
It's up to them. It's absolutely up to them. And my job is to support and facilitate it. Adore that boy. He is, oh my gosh, his brother is just like, love him. And so, yeah, we're kind of like, we're this non-traditional blended family. And it's why, for anyone in here who's ever seen my shows or anything, it is why non-traditional families are very often at the heart of my shows. The friendship group and the family that is created in All American between the Bakers and the Jameses and this weird non-traditional blended family that is both those families. And their friend group that is very much a friend group that is family, that is love, that would do it. All of that is on purpose, because that
chosen family.
Chosen family is very important in my life. It is very important in my kids' lives. And I think it is very important for us as humans. It will hopefully help us not just empathize with our neighbors' lives, struggle, pain, but feel it as a family member. If we can look at our neighbors as family and not just neighbors, then we actually care to a different degree. And so, yeah, I didn't realize, someone else pointed it out about 5 years ago. They were like, you realize that non-traditional families
is your thing.
And I was like, no, and then I went back, I was like, oh, no.
Yes.
Yeah. It's all different versions of my family's truth.
Well, first of all, I mean, because you were built for this and non-traditional families are your thing. And when I called Nico to say, NK is going to be on, it was only 10 minutes before we went live. And I'm going to just tell his business. He was in his massage chair. He answered the FaceTime with his lights out. His do-rag was on. I don't care, Nico. And he said, what's going on? I said, NK is going to be on live. It's National Adoption Day. She's going to tell Elijah's story and on this whole thing. And I just want you to come on, because why? Because we're chosen family. We're chosen family. And so he pops out of the chair and puts on his shirt and gets his ring light ready, because we are family. And that has been at the core of all of the things that you do and how you operate in the world and the demonstration that you are on television and behind the scenes. And so I just want to thank you. I want to thank you, because what everybody here doesn't know is NK has been telling me, Kellee, whenever you need me, I'm ready to talk about my story, the journey through adoption, whenever I want to be a part of this. And what you guys also don't know is that I work with Kids in the Spotlight, which is a organization where we take foster kids and we help them write and direct their own short films. And NK, having adopted out of the foster care system, also hit me then and said, how can I be a part of it? And during the pandemic, this woman here who runs every freaking show on television taught my foster kids how to write, taught a class for them virtually. So she doesn't just do the thing and walk away from the system. She walks the walk, and she continues to use her voice and to use her knowledge and her heart and her selflessness to aid in our community in the foster care system and create chosen families that we all get to witness and we all get to cheer you on. And I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of your chosen family, that I'm Auntie Kellee to both of your boys. I want to say thank you for sharing your truth and your story, and just that beautiful testimony from age 15 to that run in the park. here you are. You were chosen back then, and you heard the call back then. Somebody says, my first project was with Kids in the Spotlight, Such a Small World.
Oh, wait, that's Gail. That's our script supervisor on All American, who's amazing. Hey, Gail.
Oh, my God. Hi. Was it really? Oh, my, see how this all works. It just makes me feel so good. Oh, my God. Well, this has been beautiful. NK, is there any last words? You really just dropped the mic with the chosen family, but any last words for anybody out there that is thinking about adoption? Are there any tips or anything that you would tell them in that long journey?
I would say, listen, one of two things. One is be honest with yourself about what you want, because that's where it starts, the honesty with yourself. And then, because once you know, when you have that conversation, you know what, then you can open yourself up to whichever path is going to lead you, whichever adoption path is going to lead you to the thing that you've had an honest conversation with yourself, with your partner, about what you want. And second of all, is if adoption is something you're seriously considering, especially if it's adoption through the foster care system, DM me. I promise you I will pick up the phone and have the conversation, because I feel so strongly about this. I advocate for this because, again, non-traditional families are my jam. You guys will see on All American Homecoming, when it premieres next year, that we have a family dinner that is part of that show. That is funny, because someone at first was like, is that real that people would bond like that and they're not blood? And I'm like, child, let me tell you. And so
all day.
It's very important to me. And so honestly, if it really is something that you're considering and you would love to hear more about it, or hear more about my personal experience, if that at all helps you, please DM me. I'm really happy to talk about it. I'm happy to chat about it, happy to help in any way, point towards resources or anything that can help you make an informed decision. The most important thing is about making the right informed decision for you and your family. And if you're doing it with that intent, then you can't go wrong.
Ooh, because when you serve God, you don't lose. So you cannot go wrong. I am honored. I'm privileged. I am so happy to call you my friend and my chosen family.
I love you.
I love you. 20 plus years I've been loving you. I'm going to love you my whole life. So thank you, Kellee. Jeanette was here. All these people were in the building showing you love and showing support. Thank you to Nico for dropping by.
Yes.
Thank you to Elijah and Isaiah and John for loaning us you for this time. And happy National Adoption Day. We salute you. We salute the entire family. You guys, thank you for joining in. I will see you. I'm in Chicago working, so I will see you on not this Wednesday, but another Wednesday, and we will do more Warrior Wednesdays. But for now, this is Miss NKECHI CARROLL with Adoption Day. I love you, friend.
I love you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, baby. I love you. Mwah. I'll call you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, love. Oh, my goodness. Okay, you guys. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you to my dear, sweet NK, my beautiful friend. I'm so glad I met her 20 plus years ago on a plane. So you never know who you're sitting next to. And to see her testimony from age 15, feeling the call of I know I want to adopt, and to hear the whole journey of Elijah and Isaiah and the entire family. It's so beautiful. I hope that you were blessed today. I hope this was a great way for us to celebrate National Adoption Day, continue to talk about adoption, and bring awareness to all things fertility, women's health, men's health, and all of the family building things that we do here at Warrior Wednesdays. This is a safe place where we normalize the different ways that we create families. And NK is finally a part of that Warrior family. So from me to you, I say thank you for joining on this beautiful Saturday night, National Adoption Awareness Day. Tell a friend to watch this on Warrior Wednesdays TV. I'm going to post it right now. NK, I love you and I thank you. Bye, y'all. Thanks for coming by.